Her text came through at 7:47 p.m. "Hey babes, meeting a client at the Meridian Hotel Rooftop Bar. Drinks and contract review, might be late, don't wait up, love you." I read it twice. Then I looked up from my phone. At the Meridian Hotel Rooftop Bar, where I was already sitting, where I had been sitting for 45 minutes, waiting for my own client who had canceled last minute. I hadn't told her yet. I was about to text back when the elevator doors opened behind me, and my wife stepped out. But she wasn't alone, and the man whose hand was pressed against the small of her back, he wasn't a client. I'm going to tell you what happened next. Every moment, every decision, every consequence. Because what I witnessed that night didn't just end my marriage. It ended the person I used to be. Her name was Alina. We met the way modern love stories begin, through an algorithm, a dating app, a right swipe at 11:43 p.m. on a Tuesday when I was about to give up on the whole thing. Her profile said she was a marketing executive who loved hiking, hated small talk, and believed that loyalty was the most underrated virtue. Loyalty. I should have asked her to define it. Our first date was at a coffee shop downtown. She was late by 12 minutes, arrived breathless and apologetic, her dark hair windswept, her smile the kind that makes you forget what you were going to say. We talked for 4 hours. I learned she grew up in a small town, fought her way through college on scholarships and waitressing jobs, and had built her career from nothing. She was hungry, ambitious, driven in a way that I found intoxicating. I was a financial consultant, stable, comfortable, perhaps too comfortable looking back. I had a nice apartment, a predictable routine, and a quiet confidence that came from knowing exactly who I was and what I wanted. What I wanted was her. We moved in together after 8 months, engaged at 14 months, married at 22 months. Everyone said we were rushing. My mother pulled me aside at the engagement party and asked if I really knew this woman. "You know her ambition," she said, "but do you know her heart?" I dismissed it as generational anxiety, old-fashioned worry. Alina was my partner, my equal, my future. Parents see what we refuse to. The first 3 years of marriage were good, not perfect, no marriage is, but good. Alina's career accelerated rapidly. She was promoted twice, then recruited by a larger firm with a corner office and a client list that read like a Fortune 500 directory. I was proud of her, genuinely proud. But her hours grew longer. Her phone grew more private. And the space between us on our king-sized bed grew wider. I started noticing the small things first. She would step outside to take calls. "It's just a demanding client," she'd say, waving her hand dismissively. She started going to the gym at unusual hours. She bought new lingerie that never seemed to appear in our bedroom. She became protective of her phone in a way she hadn't been before, angling the screen away, taking it to the bathroom, sleeping with it under her pillow. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that trust meant not checking. I told myself that secure men don't snoop. But insecurity isn't always irrational. Sometimes it's intuition wearing a disguise. The month before that night at the rooftop bar, things had shifted. Alina seemed lighter, happier, more energetic, but none of that energy was directed at me. She would come home glowing, but when I asked about her day, her answers were vague, clipped, rehearsed. "Just meetings. You wouldn't find it interesting. Work stuff. Work stuff." I started sleeping less. My mind would race at 3 a.m., constructing scenarios I desperately wanted to dismiss. I would watch her sleep and wonder who she was dreaming about. I would see her smile at her phone and feel my stomach drop. But I never checked. I never asked directly. I never violated the sacred boundary of privacy. Because I believed in the vows. Because I believed in her. Because I was terrified that if I looked for the truth, I might actually find it. That Thursday, I had a meeting scheduled with a potential investment client at the Meridian Hotel Rooftop Bar. It was his choice. He liked the atmosphere, the views, the exclusivity. I arrived early, as I always do, ordered a whiskey, reviewed my notes. At 7:15, he texted that he had to cancel. "Family emergency, could we reschedule?" I considered leaving. I had no reason to stay. But the whiskey was good, the evening was warm, and I decided to finish my drink and enjoy the sunset alone. Some decisions change everything. I texted Alina, "My meeting canceled, where are you, want to grab dinner?" No response. I didn't think much of it. She was often slow to reply during work hours. At 7:47 her text came through. Hey babes, meeting a client at the Meridian Hotel Rooftop Bar. Drinks and contract review, might be late, don't wait up, love you. I read it 3 times. The Meridian Hotel Rooftop Bar. Where I was sitting. I didn't move. I should have texted back, I'm here, come find me. I should have made myself visible, given her an out, let her explain. But something stopped me. Something deep in my gut, something primal and knowing, told me to wait, to watch, to see what she meant by client. I shifted to a corner booth, partially obscured by a large plant and the angle of the bar. From there, I could see the elevator doors clearly, but I would be nearly invisible to someone just arriving. The minutes stretched. 7:52, 7:55, 7:58. At 8:03 the elevator chimed. The door slid open, and my wife stepped onto the rooftop. She was wearing the red dress, the one she said made her feel powerful, the one she used to wear for me. Her hair was done differently, looser, more romantic than her usual professional style. She was laughing at something, her head tilted back, her hand resting on the forearm of the man beside her. He was tall, dark hair, expensive suit, the kind of easy confidence that comes from never being told no. He guided her toward the bar with his hand pressed against the small of her back, a gesture so intimate, so possessive that my vision tunneled. That's not how clients touch each other. That's not how colleagues stand together. That's how lovers move through the world. They sat at the bar, their stools angled toward each other, their knees touching. He ordered for both of them champagne, not the wine she claimed to prefer. She laughed at everything he said, touched his arm, leaned in close. I couldn't hear their words, but I could read their bodies. This wasn't new. This wasn't a first meeting. This was familiar, comfortable, practiced. I watched my wife with another man for 47 minutes. Do you know what the worst part was? It wasn't the touching. It wasn't the way she looked at him like he was the only person in the room. It wasn't even the kiss, and yes, there was a kiss, brief but unmistakable when they thought no one was watching. The worst part was how happy she seemed. She was radiant, alive, present in a way she hadn't been with me in months, maybe longer. She was engaged in every word he spoke, laughing genuinely, glowing with a warmth I had forgotten she possessed. And I realized, sitting there in the shadows, that I wasn't just watching an affair. I was watching her real life. And our marriage was the performance. At 8:50 they stood. He helped her with her jacket, a gesture of care I hadn't offered in years, if I'm honest. They walked toward the elevator together, his arm around her waist. As they waited for the doors to open, she checked her phone. She typed a quick message. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Finishing up soon, home by 10, love you. Love you. The elevator doors closed. And I sat there alone, in the ruins of everything I believed about my life. I don't know how long I stayed, an hour, maybe 2. The bartender refilled my whiskey 3 times without being asked. At some point he said, rough night, friend, and I laughed, a hollow, broken sound that startled us both. At 9:45 I paid my tab and left. I walked for blocks, no destination in mind, just moving because stillness felt impossible. My mind was a hurricane of questions, memories recontextualized, small moments suddenly loaded with new meaning. The late nights, the private phone calls, the new lingerie, the gym at odd hours, the way she had pulled away from physical intimacy over the past few months, the vague answers, the locked phone, all of it. I had seen the puzzle pieces for months. I just hadn't wanted to assemble the picture. When I got home at 10:30, she was already in bed, pretending to sleep. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom for a long time, watching her breathe, the woman I had vowed to love forever, the woman who had vowed to love me. The liar. The stranger. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. My thoughts were too scattered, my emotions too raw. I needed evidence. I needed to understand the scope of this betrayal before I could address it. And some part of me, the part that still loved her, still wanted to believe, needed proof that what I'd seen was real. Maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was the one who was wrong. Denial is a powerful drug. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I checked phone records, calls, and texts to the same number, dozens every day, increasing over the past 4 months. I examined credit card statements, hotels I'd never heard of, restaurants we'd never visited together, jewelry purchases that never made it to our home. I hired a private investigator. I felt sick doing it, but I needed documentation, proof that would hold up if this went to court, proof that would silence the voice in my head that kept whispering, maybe you're wrong. The investigator's report arrived on day 12. His name was Marcus Hale, CEO of a tech startup that Alina's firm had been courting. Their affair had started 7 months earlier, 2 months before I began noticing the changes. There were photographs, time-stamped, locations documented, hotel room receipts, romantic dinners, weekend trips she had told me were work conferences. 7 months. 212 days. 31 weeks of lies. The investigator noted something in his summary that stopped me cold. Subject appears to have discussed leaving her husband with the third party. Recorded conversation indicates planning for future cohabitation. She wasn't just cheating. She was leaving. She just hadn't told me yet. The confrontation happened on a Sunday. I had chosen the timing deliberately. No work distractions, no excuses to flee, just us in our apartment, surrounded by the artifacts of our shared life. She was making coffee when I placed the folder on the kitchen counter. "What's this?" she asked, not looking up. "Open it." Her face went through stages as she flipped through the pages. Confusion, recognition, fear, defiance, and finally a cold, calculating calm that I had never seen before. "You had me followed. You were fucking someone else for 7 months, and your first question is about how I found out." The argument that followed lasted 4 hours. She denied at first, reflexively, desperately. Then, when the evidence became undeniable, she pivoted to justification. "I worked too much. I didn't appreciate her. I had become boring, predictable, suffocating." "You stopped seeing me," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You saw the wife, the partner, the role, but you stopped seeing me." And here's the thing about that moment. Here's the cruel truth that kept me awake for months afterward. She wasn't entirely wrong. Not about the affair, never about the affair. Nothing justifies that betrayal, that systematic destruction of trust, that web of lies. But about us, about our marriage. I had grown comfortable. Routine had replaced romance. Stability had become stagnation. I came home, I ate dinner, I watched TV, I went to bed. I had stopped asking about her dreams. Stopped planning surprises. Stopped looking at her like she was the woman I had swiped right on at 11:43 p.m., the one who made me forget what I was going to say. I had taken her for granted. And she had found someone who didn't. None of that excuses her choices. But it complicated my anger in ways I didn't expect. She wanted to work on things. She said Marcus meant nothing, a fantasy, an escape, a mistake. She said she still loved me. She said we could go to therapy. She said she would do anything. But I kept seeing her at that rooftop bar. The laughter, the touch, the kiss. The text that said love you while she was with him. "You texted me that you loved me," I said quietly. "While you were with him, while you were planning a future with him, you looked at your phone, you typed those words, and then you went back to holding his hand." She had no answer for that. Neither did I. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. We didn't have children, which simplified logistics but somehow made the failure feel more complete. Without kids to negotiate over, there was nothing to bind us to each other. We just dissolved. A 6-year relationship, 4 years of marriage reduced to paperwork and divided assets. I got the apartment. She got guilt and Marcus for 3 more months until he was spotted at another rooftop bar with another woman who wasn't Alina. Some people can't be faithful to anyone. Some people just can't. The aftermath of betrayal isn't dramatic like in movies. There's no cathartic breakdown, no montage of healing, no clear redemption arc. It's smaller than that, quieter, more insidious. It's waking up at 3 a.m. reaching for someone who isn't there. It's flinching when your phone buzzes, remembering the lies that came through text. It's looking at couples in restaurants and wondering which ones are performing. It's trusting no one, not fully, not completely, not ever again. I went to therapy twice a week for 8 months. I talked about trust, about self-worth, about the difference between her failure and my value. I learned clinical terms for what I experienced: betrayal, trauma, hypervigilance, attachment injury. The labels helped. They didn't heal. The hardest part, and I know this sounds strange, was letting go of the anger. Anger felt protective, righteous, justified. As long as I was furious at her, I didn't have to feel the sadness underneath. I didn't have to grieve the future we'd planned, the person I thought she was, the version of myself that believed in happy endings. But anger is exhausting. And eventually, you have to set down the weight. It took me 2 years. 2 years to stop checking her social media. 2 years to stop rehearsing confrontations in my head. 2 years to stop seeing every new romantic prospect through the lens of her betrayal. 2 years to breathe normally again. I started dating again at 34, carefully, slowly, with walls so high that most women gave up after the second date. I was charming on the surface, but anyone who got close enough could feel the frost beneath. "You don't trust anyone," one woman told me 3 months into something that might have become serious. "You're waiting for me to betray you, and I can't spend my life proving I won't." She was right. She left. That's the thing about infidelity that the cheater never fully understands. They think it's about them, their needs, their unhappiness, their justifications. But it's also about the person they leave behind. And the people that person will meet in the future. And the relationships that will be poisoned by the ghost of their betrayal. Alina didn't just cheat on me. She made me harder, colder, less capable of the vulnerability that love requires. She didn't just end our marriage. She damaged my capacity for the next one. At 36, I met someone. Her name was Claire. She was a teacher, patient in a way that Alina never was. She didn't push, didn't demand, didn't need me to heal on her timeline. She just showed up consistently, day after day, proving through action what Alina had only promised in words. "I know you've been hurt," she said one night early in our relationship. "I'm not asking you to forget that. I'm just asking you to let me show you something different." I wanted to believe her. But I had believed before. It took another year, a year of Claire texting when she said she would, a year of Claire being where she said she'd be, a year of Claire leaving her phone face up on the table without thinking about it, a year of small, consistent, unremarkable trustworthiness. Not grand gestures. Just truth. Again and again and again. We're married now. 3 years and counting. I still have moments of doubt. Flashes of the old fear, when she's late without explanation, when she steps out to take a call, when she seems distracted, some part of me still tenses, still waits for the other shoe. But it's quieter now. Smaller. Most days it barely speaks at all. Healing isn't linear. It's not a destination. It's a practice. Last month I was in the city for a conference. The venue was near the Meridian Hotel. I hadn't been to that rooftop bar in 7 years. I went back. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to close the loop. Maybe I wanted to see if the place still held power over me. I sat at the same corner booth, ordered the same whiskey, watched the elevator doors. And I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not triumph. Just distance. Like watching a movie of someone else's pain. I finished my drink and left. And for the first time, I didn't look back. Here's what I know now, 7 years after watching my wife kiss another man at a rooftop bar. Betrayal doesn't define you. Unless you let it. I could have let that night destroy me. I could have become the bitter ex-husband, the cautionary tale, the man who never trusted again. I could have let Alina's choices dictate the rest of my story. For a while I almost did. But there's another path. It's harder, slower, less satisfying in the short term. It's the path of feeling the pain instead of hiding from it, of examining your own contributions without excusing their betrayal, of learning what you need, what you're willing to accept, and what you'll never tolerate again. The truth about infidelity is this. It says far more about the cheater than the cheated. But it still changes you. Alina took something from me that night, my innocence about love, my belief that vows were unbreakable, my trust in my own judgment. But she also gave me something. Clarity. I know now what I want, a partner who shows up, who tells the truth even when it's hard, who works through problems instead of escaping into someone else's bed. I know now what I am worth, not a backup plan, not a stable option while someone explores their desires, not a safety net for someone too afraid to be alone. I know now what love actually looks like. And it doesn't look like rooftop bars and secret texts and kisses stolen while your spouse waits at home. If you're watching this and you've been betrayed, you will survive this. It doesn't feel like it now, I know. Every breath feels like an act of will. Every morning feels like a mountain. Every memory is poison. But you will survive. And someday, not soon, not easily, but someday you'll be grateful for the truth. Because living in a lie is worse. Always. If you're watching this and you're the one who strayed, look at what you've done. Really look. Not at your justifications, not at your unmet needs, not at the story you tell yourself about how you ended up here. Look at the person you vowed to honor. Look at the life you're willing to destroy for a feeling, a thrill, and escape. Look at who you're becoming. Is this who you want to be? And if you're watching this and you're in a marriage that's dying, have the conversation. Do the hard work. Or end it honestly. But don't choose this path, don't choose deception, don't choose betrayal. Because you're not just hurting your spouse. You're damaging yourself. You're becoming someone who lies, someone who hides, someone who looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the person looking back. There's no victory in an affair. Only different kinds of losing. I think about that text sometimes. Meeting a client at the hotel rooftop bar. Such ordinary words. Such an ordinary lie. She didn't know I was already there. But in some ways I wasn't. I was asleep, comfortable, blind to what my marriage had become, to what she was becoming. To what we had stopped being together. Watching her with Marcus woke me up. Not the way I would have chosen. But awake nonetheless. So here's my question for you. If you had been there, sitting in that corner booth, watching your spouse with someone else, watching your life collapse in real time, what would you have done? Would you have confronted them immediately, created a scene, demanded answers on the spot? Would you have left quietly, gathered evidence, planned your exit? Would you have tried to understand, to forgive, to rebuild? Or would you have done what I did? Watched, waited, let the truth fully reveal itself. And then let go. There's one more thing. 6 months ago, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Alina. I'm sorry for everything. I've been in therapy for 3 years. I finally understand what I did. You didn't deserve any of it. I hope you found happiness. I hope you found someone who deserves you. I read it twice. Then I put my phone down. I looked at Claire, reading on the couch beside me. At our dog sleeping at her feet. At the life I built from the ruins. I didn't respond to Alina. There was nothing left to say. She texted, meeting a client at the hotel rooftop bar. She didn't know I was already there. But now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.